Right after sex, a lot of women make one small move that feels loving to them but feels like pressure to an avoidant man, and in that exact moment he starts pulling away. Not because he did not enjoy being close to you, not because the connection was fake, but because the minutes after intimacy can feel more intense to him than the intimacy itself. His body feels open, his guard is down, his heart is softer than usual, and that is exactly why his mind starts searching for an exit. So if you have ever felt confused by how a man can be warm one minute and distant the next, stay with me, because this is where everything changes. There is one simple thing you can do in those first quiet moments that makes him feel safe enough to stay instead of run. It is not a deep talk. It is not asking what this means. It is not trying to lock in the moment with questions, labels, or emotional pressure. It is much simpler, much calmer, and much more powerful than that. And once you understand it, you will stop making the mistake that triggers his shutdown and start creating the kind of space where he can actually open up on his own. Watch closely, because this is subtle, but it changes everything, and the women who understand this stop chasing connection and start creating it. The first thing to understand is that the window after sex is emotionally loaded for an avoidant man. During intimacy, his body can relax into pleasure, warmth, and closeness. For a short time, he may feel more connected than he usually allows himself to feel. The bonding chemicals are real, the attachment response is real, the sense of closeness is real, but then comes the shift. As soon as the intensity settles, his mind wakes back up and starts scanning for danger. That danger is not always you. It is not always the relationship. A lot of the time, the danger is the feeling of being exposed. He starts sensing how close he really feels, and instead of enjoying that softness, his system reads it as risk. He may suddenly go quiet, he may stare off, he may reach for his phone, he may joke around, he may act like nothing happened, he may need space without knowing how to explain why. This is where many women take it personally, and I understand why. It can feel cold, it can feel confusing, it can feel like a drop in energy when you were hoping for more connection. But here is the truth you need to hold on to. His shift after intimacy is often not a reflection of your value, it is a reflection of what closeness activates inside him. And once you understand that, you stop reacting to the surface and start responding to what is really happening underneath. This matters because in those first few minutes, his body and mind are often moving in opposite directions. His body may still want closeness. His body may still want softness, touch, warmth, and rest beside you, but his mind may already be whispering, "This is too much. This is getting serious. I need space. I need control. I need to get back to myself." That inner split creates tension inside him, and if you do not understand that tension, you may accidentally make it worse by doing what feels normal to you. You might start talking to reconnect. You might ask what he is thinking. You might search his face for reassurance. You might try to deepen the mood with emotional words because you want to feel chosen, secure, and close. But to him, even gentle questions in that moment can feel like demands. Even sweet words can feel like emotional work. Even love can feel heavy if his system is already overloaded. Think about that for a second. He is not always running from you. Sometimes he is running from the pressure he feels inside himself, and when you add more stimulation in a moment when he needs less, he can start linking closeness with stress instead of peace. That is why this moment matters so much. This is where he decides, often without words, whether being close to you feels calming or whether it feels like something he has to escape. So, what is the one thing to do after sex that helps an avoidant man stay open? It is calm, silent, non-judgmental presence. That is it. Not cold silence, not wounded silence, not punishment, not pretending not to care. I mean a soft, peaceful, grounded presence that asks for nothing in that moment. No pressure, no testing, no hidden emotional demand, no trying to force a deeper conversation while he is still processing what he feels. This is what disarms him because it tells his nervous system something he rarely expects to feel after closeness. It tells him that being close to you does not mean he now owes you a performance. He does not have to explain himself instantly. He does not have to prove his feelings. He does not have to say the perfect thing. He does not have to carry your anxiety while managing his own. He can simply breathe. He can simply be there, and that changes the entire emotional temperature of the moment. Stay with that, because this part is powerful. When a man expects intimacy to be followed by expectation, pressure, or emotional demand, he braces himself. But when intimacy is followed by ease, warmth, and peaceful acceptance, his system starts to relax instead of defend. That is why this works. It does not try to talk him into closeness. It lets him feel that closeness is safe, and feeling safe will always go deeper than hearing the right words. Now let's make this practical, because understanding the idea is not enough. You have to embody it. Your energy speaks before your words ever do. If your face is tense, if your breathing is quick, if your touch is gripping, if your body is asking for reassurance, even when your mouth is not, he will feel that. Avoidant men are often highly sensitive to pressure, and pressure is not only verbal. Pressure can live in the way you hold your body. It can live in the silence, if that silence feels heavy. It can live in the pause before you ask, "Are you okay?" So if you want to create safety, your body has to match the message. Relax your muscles, let your breathing slow down, keep your touch light and warm. Rest beside him instead of leaning in with emotional urgency. Let your hand be gentle, not grasping. Let your body say, "I am here, I am calm, I do not need to take something from you right now." That kind of energy regulates the moment. It lowers the emotional noise. It gives him room to stay in connection without feeling cornered by it. And this is where many women miss the deeper truth. The goal is not to act distant. The goal is to be so secure in that moment that you do not need to pull closeness out of him. You let him feel it. You let him settle. You let the moment breathe. And when you do that, you become associated with peace, not pressure. That memory stays in his system longer than any perfect line ever could. Here is where it gets hard, because what feels peaceful to him may feel deeply uncomfortable to you. If you have your own fear of disconnection, silence after intimacy can feel loud. It can feel like rejection. It can feel like something is wrong. It can make your mind race. You may want to speak just to relieve your own anxiety. You may want reassurance, affection, eye contact, or emotional words to confirm that the moment meant something. And that need is human. It makes sense. But if you are not aware of it, your need for comfort can push him further away in the exact moment when patience would bring him closer. This is why your own attachment patterns matter so much here. If silence makes you panic, then you may unknowingly turn a soft moment into a pressured one. If distance makes you chase, then you may accidentally confirm his belief that closeness always becomes demanding. So part of doing this well is not just understanding him, it is understanding yourself. Can you stay calm when the room gets quiet? Can you let a moment breathe without filling it? Can you stop yourself from trying to secure the connection before it has had a chance to naturally unfold? That is the real work. And if you can do that, you stop acting from fear and start acting from steadiness. That steadiness becomes the emotional environment where an avoidant man feels less trapped, less judged, and more able to come forward on his own. That is a completely different experience than one built on tension and overthinking. Another key part of this is giving space without making it feel like distance. That balance matters more than most people realize. Because yes, avoidant men need room to process, but space only works when it still carries warmth. If your version of giving space becomes cold, detached, or emotionally checked out, then he may not feel safe either. He may read that as disinterest. He may feel the closeness disappear too fast. He may feel that opening up always leads to emotional withdrawal on both sides. So, the art is in staying available without pushing, quiet without shutting down, present without hovering, soft without chasing. You are not disappearing. You are not punishing. You are simply allowing the moment to unfold without grabbing at it. That might mean lying beside him peacefully. It might mean a gentle touch and no words. It might mean a small smile instead of a serious conversation. It might mean letting him be the first one to speak, even if all he offers at first is a joke, a sigh, or a random comment. And if that is all he gives at first, do not crush the opening by making it carry too much weight. Let small openings stay small. Let them build naturally. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They get 1 inch of vulnerability and immediately ask for a mile. But emotional trust with an avoidant man is built in moments that feel light enough for him to repeat. If being open always leads to more pressure, he will stop opening. If being open leads to ease, he will start doing it more often. So when he does speak, And this is important. Your response can either teach his nervous system that vulnerability is safe or that it is risky. If he shares even something small after intimacy, do not overreact. Do not interrogate. Do not suddenly turn into an emotional investigator trying to decode every word. Stay warm, stay simple, stay easy. A soft smile, a gentle touch, a quiet, "That is nice to hear," a calm, "Thank you for telling me," a relaxed, "I like that." That kind of response works because it affirms him without making him feel exposed under a spotlight. Avoidant men often fear judgment more than they admit. They also fear emotional escalation, so even positive intensity can make them shut back down if it feels too big, too fast, or too loaded. Remember that you do not need a dramatic response to reward openness. In fact, the quieter your acceptance, the safer it can feel. Think about how trust is built with something easily startled. If every small step forward is met with too much energy, it pulls back. But if every small step is met with steadiness, warmth, and ease, it slowly comes closer. That is the rhythm you want. You are not trying to force a breakthrough in one night. You are creating a pattern in his body, a pattern that says, "When I let my guard down with her, I do not get trapped, judged, pushed, or drained. I get peace, I get acceptance, I get room to stay myself." And over time, that changes everything about how he experiences closeness with you. But let me add something important here, because patience should never become self-abandonment. There is a difference between giving someone safe space and shrinking yourself to keep them comfortable forever. There is a difference between understanding his patterns and excusing behavior that leaves you chronically lonely, confused, or starved for real intimacy. This is where many people get stuck. They become so focused on learning how to not trigger him that they stop asking whether the relationship is meeting their own needs. Yes, some avoidant men can grow when they feel safe, respected, and not pushed. Yes, some truly do soften over time when intimacy stops feeling like a trap. But not every pattern changes just because you handle it perfectly. Some men use distance as a permanent shield. Some only enjoy closeness in controlled doses, but never build real emotional consistency. Some receive all your patience while offering very little in return, and you need to know the difference. If he becomes gradually more open, more honest, more steady, more willing to meet you halfway, that is growth. If nothing changes and you are always the one adjusting, always the one interpreting, always the one waiting, then you may not be creating safety, you may be enabling stagnation. That truth matters, because the goal is not to become endlessly skilled at managing someone else's defenses while your own needs go unmet. The goal is mutual safety, mutual care, mutual effort. So use this wisdom to create connection, yes, but also use it to observe whether he is actually capable of growing inside the space you are offering. And here is something else most people do not talk about. The real power of this moment is not only what happens after sex, it is what that moment teaches the relationship over time. If every post-intimacy moment becomes a place where he feels calm instead of crowded, he begins to associate closeness with relief instead of pressure. He stops expecting that every vulnerable moment will turn into a conversation he is not ready for, a label he cannot give yet, or an emotional test he is afraid to fail. Little by little, his body stops bracing as hard, he lingers longer, he talks sooner, he touches more freely. He may still need space sometimes, but the space feels less like escape and more like a natural breath between moments of connection. That is a huge shift, and it often starts with the emotional tone you set in those quiet minutes when his guard is low and his instincts are deciding whether to stay open or shut down. So if you want to change the pattern, do not focus only on what to say. Focus on what he feels around you in the silence. Does he feel watched, measured, and needed? Or does he feel accepted, unforced, and safe to remain present? That is the real question. And once you get this, you stop chasing emotional proof every time intimacy happens. You stop trying to squeeze clarity out of a tender moment. You stop mistaking silence for failure. Sometimes silence is not a wall. Sometimes it is the bridge, and if you can hold that bridge without panicking, you give connection a chance to deepen in a way that feels real instead of forced. So if you want the simple answer, here it is. After sex, do not rush to fill the moment. Do not grab at reassurance. Do not turn softness into pressure. Bring calm, bring warmth, bring grounded, easy presence. Let your body say, "You are safe here." Let the silence breathe. Let him come toward you instead of pulling words out of him before he is ready. If he opens, receive it gently. If he stays quiet, do not collapse into fear. Stay steady, stay warm, stay in your self-respect. Because the women who create the deepest emotional safety are not the ones who know the perfect line. They are the ones who can hold intimacy without trying to control what happens next. And that kind of presence is rare. It is powerful. It is unforgettable. It makes a guarded man feel something he may not have felt in a long time. That closeness does not have to cost him his freedom, and vulnerability does not always end in pressure. And if this message is hitting home, then keep listening to your own body too, because the healthiest connection is not only about making him feel safe, it is also about making sure you feel seen, chosen, and emotionally held in return. That is the full picture. That is the deeper standard. And when both people can bring that kind of safety into the room, intimacy stops being a trigger and starts becoming a place where love can actually stay.